What's up, guys? This is Ezereth. I've been getting so many requests from people asking about my build that I decided to make a video to go through my support beam PvP build in depth and explain all the nuances and synergies that I've utilized in the build that has made it so powerful. As the title states, as of the time of this video, I'm currently not only the highest ranked wizard in the game right now, but also the highest ranked legend player in the world, with a legend rank of 5826 and a 75% win rate. I've asked every whale I've come across what their rank in the Battlegrounds is at the moment, and for whatever reason none of them are even close right now. Here are the keys to this build that has made it so successful for me. I start off by utilizing Disintegrate as my primary source of damage. For the Disintegrate, I'm using the Entropic Edge weapon legendary, which gives me 10% disintegrate damage, and then the awakening slot for disintegrate cooldown decreased by 10%. Additionally, on the shoulders, I'm using the Searing Judgment legendary, which gives me fire, a fire modifier to my disintegrate, which burns enemies over time. It adds a damage over time component and vastly increases the damage of disintegrate. The awakening on that slot is disintegrate energy is consumed 10% slower. And finally, for disintegrate, I'm using the Chaos Nexus legendary. And Chaos Nexus will allow your disintegrate to have 3 additional beams that will strike other enemies around you. And the awakening component for that is increased disintegrate damage by 10%. Now the nice thing with that is when you cast this, invisible players will be revealed by your disintegrate, and if you see those little beams on these mobs here, I'm going to use the monsters as an example, your disintegrate, when it hits something, will send out a beam that will make an invisible player, it'll show you, even though they're invisible on the map, where they've teleported to. So if a wizard were to teleport over here, I would be able to trace them with this disintegrate. So that's one piece that's very important if you're going to be running a disintegrate build. In addition to that, I'm running Ray of Frost. Now Ray of Frost I don't have any modifiers for, none of them work with this build, but it's not necessary by itself to have any of the legendaries to make Ray of Frost stronger. Ray of Frost is strong enough on its own. It adds a chilling effect, so if we go into our skills here, it adds a 12% chill that stacks up to 6 times for 1.5 to 4 seconds. So against players with enough potency, you can get, 72% chill on them, which vastly reduces their own attack speed. So chill actually affects attack speed, so it reduces their attack speed. It's extremely important against monks and crusaders and barbarians, all melee classes, as well as other wizards that are channeling and demon hunters that are using their own attack speed. In addition to that, I use the Mask of Illusions helm, which gives you a teleport, and that causes you to become invisible and leave behind a mirror image. And the awakening slot on that gives you a 10% cooldown. So just to show you that real quick, you can see I'm invisible here. Another player can't see me until I pop. Meanwhile, my image is left behind, and they'll be attacking it. And if somebody's attacking me and I teleport, they don't yet know it until I appear behind them and start attacking them in many cases. So you'll see that in some of my PvP videos. And it's a pretty common selection for many wizards. And I'll get more into that here in a moment. In addition to that, I'm using Ice Armor. And Ice Armor gives you a barrier of ice, which for me at my hit points is almost 50,000 hit points. And I can recast it with some of the other things I'm stacking right now, which I'll get into, about every 15 seconds. And it's supposed to last for 8 seconds, but in addition to that, I'm running the Winter Mantle, and so this is the Heart of the Frozen North is my chest piece, And that's very important if you're running ice armor, because that gives a 40% chill. Once again, that's attack speed reduction for your opponents for 2 seconds. Anytime someone attacks me at melee range, they will get that chill effect on them. In addition, that gives me a 10% cooldown on ice armor, which is extremely important. It's 2 seconds off ice armor. And I run, and the reason I call this a PvP support beam wizard build is because I run this icon of synchronicity, and synchronicity gives you a that's the winter mantle, gives you your damage shield to all your allies in range. Now it's not quite as big for them, as you see. For me it's 48,711. For my allies it's 10,824. But more importantly, it also gives them some other buffs that I'm stacking, and that's the reason that I call myself a support wizard, and I'll show you those here in a moment as I get into some of my gems and set bonuses. So keep that in mind. They also get an 8-second shield that stacks some other buffs on them as well. So those are my legendary affixes that I have for my gear. For the gems, I'm running Blood-Soaked Jade, and all of my gems are rank 10, and I have, as you can see here, 6,880 resonance. So I'm not quite maxed on my character, but I'm very close to max within a reasonable cost. It's about another $35,000 to get that last 600 resonance. And in addition to Blood-Soaked, I'm running Chip of the Stone Flesh. Now this gem is not actually with this build useful. If you're going to run Chip of the Stone Flesh, you would want to be using a black hole, a meteor, or a freeze ray, or the ice crystal with that the chest ice crystal component that will freeze your opponents. In PvP, as a wizard, I would say Chip of the Stone Flesh is not a very good gem. I would run, instead of this, for most people, I would run an Echoing Shade if you're going to use this build, and you have that choice, unless you really want to run Challenge Rift. So I did make the choice at one point to use Chip of the Stone Flesh, but that does not help me at all, other than the resonance and combat rating in PvP. I run Seeping Bile, Blessing of the Worthy, Phoenix Ashes, and Bottled Hope. Now Bottled Hope is a very important gem for this build. What it does is every time I use a skill to grant a buff, it increases the damage and movement speed of my character for 24% for 6 seconds, and that occurs once every 6 seconds. So teleport, because it makes me invisible, is considered a buff. So every time I teleport, and you'll see that 6 stack of Bottled Hope up there, now I'm getting that bonus for all that time. In addition to that, when I cast my shield, and there's the radius of the shield you'll see there, that gives all my allies in range. So if we're fighting on a point, I suddenly give them movement speed, and I give them damage as well with my shield. In addition to that, the sets I'm running are the Vithu's Urges set, as many people call it, the Urges set, and that increases the duration of my beneficial effects by 30%, and for the 4-piece, gives you 30% attack speed for 3 seconds. Now what that does is, every time I buff myself, whether that's a shield or a teleport, now my channeling is 30% faster. So you'll see my beam speed on this with that Vithu's buff is running a lot faster than without that 4-second buff there. And because I'm running Vithu's, I get a 30% increase to duration of beneficial effects, which includes my ice shield itself. So I have those 4-second cooldowns. I get another 5% cooldown, which takes me to 15 seconds on my ice shield, as you can see there when I press it. But because I'm running duration of beneficial effects, now my shield, as you can see, lasts this much longer. My Bottled Hope, instead of 6 seconds, actually lasts over 9 seconds, because on my character I'm stacking, for reforging, duration of beneficial effects on every piece. In addition, I'm splitting stun resistance and knockback resistance, and when I get that third bonus, I'm going to be splitting that equally across stun resistance and knockback resistance. So I'll have 36% stun resistance, 36% knockback resistance, and 18% duration of beneficial effects. So, and you can see here, I think I also have, no, maybe I don't have, no, I do have 4.5% additional on my chest here. That's the only piece I have actually on my gear. I want to have it on my legs and my belt. It's very common on both of those, but I currently do not. So yeah, here's my set pieces. My pieces on my gear are not actually very good for my Paragon level. I have not had much luck in grinding, but set bonuses are not nerfed in PvP by the Strife debuff, where legendary gems are nerfed by 66%. So set pieces are very powerful for PvP, so if you're going to focus there, make sure you're using the right set. The top two sets for PvP for a wizard would be Monobanks and Vithus, with Vithus for this build I think being far stronger due to the synergies with your other abilities. So as you can see, in addition with all that stacking of duration of beneficial effects, my ghost form, instead of lasting the 3 seconds, lasts almost 5 seconds. So that's very useful when you're trying to reposition in PvP. And the reason I use this Ray of Frost is I can tag people, and every time I touch them with my Ray of Frost, it will remove to proc their Unstoppable and remove their CC immunity, which is huge when you're in a big team fight. And you can just basically spray the battlefield and remove everybody's CC protections. So that's pretty much my build in a nutshell. If you have more specific questions that you'd like to see on my build, I'd be happy to answer your questions in the comments below. If you found this video helpful and would like to see more content like this, please subscribe and hit the notification bell. I'll be regularly releasing more in-depth videos that all players, both whale and free-to-play, will find both entertaining and educational. Thanks for watching, everyone.